Well, this has got to be kind of a strange-ish video, you know. Typically I just dive in here and start fixing stuff. But, this one's kind of weird in that, you know, I've been digging around at the Samba, trying to come up with some ideas as to why this one leaks gas. And I don't know if you can see, it's kind of shiny right through there. There is a tinge of gas. You can see a little bit on my finger right there. When it evaporates, it leaves kind of a residue. And of course on this side there's nothing. So we've got an issue where one carb is malfunctioning, the other carb is working okay. And they often refer to this thing as the dellorto drip, because these things are old and sometimes they malfunction. Any number of things can go wrong with them. But let's start with one of the first things that you'll read about if you go to the Samba. And they'll say, check your fuel pump. So let's, right now, with 100% certainty, say it is not the fuel pump. If my fuel pump was overloading this, it would overload that. And it's not. So this is clearly not a fuel pump issue. This is going to be something that is specific to this carb and not both of the carburetors. Now, I just cranked the car up and turned it around, which would have filled up the float bowl on this one right here. So this guy should start dripping a little bit, I would think. But anyway, it drips right down here. And there it is. I just got a little bit of a drip on my finger. So it will drip prior to moving it out here so that I could do some videoing. But with that fuel dripping there, it was not dripping prior to moving it out of the garage. So one of the other things that might have been wrong with this thing is the needle valve sticking open. So if the needle valve sticks open, your float bowls can fill up really, I mean, to a tremendous amount, and then the gasoline flows out your main venturi and right straight down. Did you see that? There's a little drip right there. But if I've got a problem like that, so right now I've got a full gas tank and the car's sitting here in my driveway with the gas tank up the driveway and the carburetors are down the driveway, and you would get kind of just a flow. I don't know what you call it, like an artesian flow. It's like it's a well, you know. I've got water that simply flows out. In this particular case, it's going to be gas. And another drip right there. But if I sit here for long enough period of time, like overnight, that drip will stop. So it's simply emptying the float bowl. So it doesn't mean with 100% certainty that it's not the needle valve. For the needle valve could be slightly messed up, maybe something got jiggled, maybe it's got a tiny bit of dirt, not enough to like the light pressure that comes from the gas. You know, that little light pressure might not be enough to do it, but if you've got the pump pumping, it's enough to go past a little piece of dirt, fill up the float bowl to too much. But in order to do this, at this point, you've got to do a little diagnostic, which is stick the camera down the throat of the carb. So I've got to do a little bit of a disassembly. But I just wanted to throw a couple of those things out there real quick. It's probably not going to be the needle valve, and it's definitely not the fuel pump. Alright, I don't have great light, but I think this piece of video will turn out okay. Just sit here and watch that drip. I know it's dripping, I could see it myself, but from my vantage point, the camera wasn't able to look down in there, so I had to cram the camera in like this. And with the camera in like that, I of course can't see down in there. I'll have to look at the video, but you can see that it's quite moist. Let's see if I can get a reflection there. I think there's a bit of a reflection down there. But anyway, there's three places where it can leak: the progression ports, the main venturi, sorry, not the main, but the aux venturi, and the power port, power circuit. Where's the power circuit? Oh, can we see where the power circuit is? Yeah, the power circuit is, let's see, where is it? Stick my finger in there far enough to feel it. Hang on a second. Where'd it go? There it is. It's this little knob right there. It's the tip of the power circuit. And it's also very high up in the carburetor. And the power circuit, it's not leaking. That's not where the leak's coming from. Which gets us down to two places. It's either the aux venturi or the progression ports. So I got my crummy little flashlight out so I could look down in there and get a real good feel for it. And you know, since I can see a drip, all right. If it was the progression ports, they're so far down there that you wouldn't see a drip. It would just ooze and you'd see gas. But since it's a drip, I know it's coming from higher up. There's only two places higher up. Like I said, one is that power circuit, and the other one is the aux venturi. It's definitely popping the aux venturi. I got the light on it, and I could see it dripping off the bottom. So what does that tell me? That tells me float level. So how does the float level just magically go bad? All I did was drive down the road and come back. I don't know. Anyway, I got to take it apart. Something's screwed up in the floats and that needle valve. You know, it's not so bad that I'm dumping my gas tank, but I'm dumping some fuel. Back in the garage, time to disassemble. Alright, got the carb top off. There's the rest of the carb right there. Just took off the float assembly. Of course, the needle valve went with it. It's I don't know, it's over there. It's all right there. Anyway, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to pull that apart a little bit more and see if I can't find out whether or not there's a little tiny bit of dirt down in there. But I'm looking at the level of fuel in that float bowl, and that seems pretty darn high to me. That doesn't seem quite right. Okay, let me repeat. I found nothing wrong. If I can get this camera to focus, we'll take a look at something. Focus, camera. There, okay, we got our focus in. Alright, what you're looking at there is the needle valve and the floats. Let's see if I can move the floats a little bit. We can get some movement in here. Alright, so that goes up and down. It's hard to do. Alright, that's better. Alright, so the needle goes up and down. Give me some light. Give me some friggin' light here now. Needle goes up and down. Now what I needed to do, because my level is too high, I need to push the point at which the needle seats, that point, I need to push that down. So there's two ways you can do that. One, I can bend the lever arm. It's that little piece of stuff. Hard to do. Can I do this? Maybe. Alright. Where my pinky's pointing. This is that lever arm right there. If I can bend that slightly, that'll push the floats down. I don't believe that's how you're supposed to do it. The other way you can do it is to take the screw that holds that needle valve in place and you put a washer underneath it, and that pushes the entire needle valve down, which is I believe the preferred way of doing this stuff. That's going to be like the up position. The down position, you've got a little tab in there. There's a little tiny tab that grabs the end of the needle valve. But I'm not concerned about the down. The down's isn't particularly critical. Seriously, it's not critical. What matters is that you've got to shut the flow of gas off when it's at the high point. So I'm going to try shoving in a little gasket. Okay, just in case that didn't make sense, let me see if I can do this real quick. All right, this is the needle valve seat, right? It screws in just like this. And if I push the needle valve this direction, bring it down toward the gasoline, it brings the seat tighter to the needle valve, which will lower your fuel level. So what you do is you put a gasket right around this, and the entire assembly pushes down. And anyway, that's what we're going to do. That's where the gasket is. That's what I'm talking about. Little gasket right there. This is what I found in my gasket kit, my rebuild kit for this assemblies. Anyway, that's going to go in there, then tighten it up. This is actually fairly thick. So, hopefully that kind of thickness will drop it the amount that we need and it'll stop dripping. Alright, for the purposes of determining how far down or up the floats go, let's take a look at this real quick. Alright, it's hard to do by pushing on it by hand, but you can kind of use gravity. Once it begins to flop, you say, okay, well, there it is. That's my angle, that's my gap. I think you're supposed to measure out at the tip end of it, which would be the high end. And yeah, that's a noticeable change in the angle. So this is without a doubt going to drop the fuel level. But the question is, if you drop too far, then it won't idle right because you fall off the end of, sorry, that little guy right in the middle right there. If you drop too far, the middle one, which you can kind of see right there against the distributor, the fuel's got to get up to at least that level or you won't idle. So, but given how high my fuel level is, I'm pretty sure I've got that all in the bag, no problem. Anyway, I got to get this thing together again, bolt it in and see if it works. Okay, I broke one of these things on the 7. It was old, who knows, maybe had a little bit of corrosion or something on it, but anyway, snapped one of these ends. Fortunately, I have not quite a parts car, but at least a replacement plate. Anyway, I grabbed one off of this this set right here. Okay, here's the joint for my 74 is in place right now, and we appear to have reassembled everything properly. I had to do a little bit of adjusting. Of course, when you take the end of it off, I had to figure out how long to make this thing again. So it feels like it's got about the right amount of tension in it. And you press the throttle, and you get a little bit of gas. And you press the throttle, and you get a little bit of gas. So the balance left-right is good. When you do full throttle, full throttle, full throttle. So the balance there is good. Got the right amount of wrappings. Of course, I had to turn this thing around a few times in order to get that guy to bind in there. Hey, my wife's windshield's here. The Prius. Windshield's busted twice in 5 years. Got a Safe Let Autoglass guy coming in. That's him beeping in the background. Alright, here we are all fired up. Got our 2-cylinder idle going here. It's cold. I'm going to have to let it run for just a second, build up fuel level in this one. Then we'll cut it off and see if it starts dripping. That's a lot steadier than it used to be. Not too shabby. Let's see what it does with this. We'll give it a little bit of rev here. Just off idle, real smooth. I tightened these up right here, this one and that one right there. I'm still, I think, getting a little tiny bit of gasoline. I don't know if you can see that shininess. Like a little tiny bit of gasoline still seems to be coming out right there. Anyway, I'm sitting here waiting. I'm waiting for some drip. Alright, it's been a few minutes. I'm not getting any drip. I think we may have figured out our problem. Fuel level. Now, why it malfunctioned, I don't know, but hey, it's fixed. Let's forget about why, just move on. It's fixed. Alright, window repair guy's out of the driveway, so we can go for a test drive. And again, there's nothing coming out down there. It's dry. and it idles. You just need to see how it goes once we empty out that excess gasoline. So we're back up and running again. I don't know if you guys can actually see that, but the idle is pretty stable at a touch under 1,000. Had to go drive it real quick, just a little tiny bit, and hopefully it just stays at 1,000. It doesn't bounce up and down and get fast and slow. Let's see how it goes. Alright, motor got all warmed up, so the idle's picked up. But that's kind of what you'd expect, so at least it's doing what you would expect now. Temperature's okay, we still got some low pressure there, no problem. Anyway, let's see if it diesels, if we get it off here. Yay, cut off too. Awesome. And it doesn't clank very much. There's not much clanking and banging going on, so it's pretty darn close, pretty close. Anyway, so much for this one.